everyone, and welcome back to my tiny yarn corner. My name is Tina, and today we are going to be finishing another test knit. Every time I finish a test knit, I tell myself I'm not going to do another one because I need to take a break from deadlines. But here I am. Honestly, nearly all the videos on my channel are test knits at this point, unintentionally so. Anyways, I'm really excited about this next project that I'm going to be talking about. It is called the Wavelength cardigan by, again, Be Creative Knits. I did another test knit for her a few months back. I'm sure you've seen it multiple times at this point, but the last test knit that I did for Bee was the Crazy Daisy Cardigan. Super cute. She is back with a new all over kind of wavy swirly cable knit cardigan. The minute she posted a test call, I was in that email.
I was in those forums.
Because it's a DK weight, my absolute favorite weight of yarn. I have a lot of those that I could use for this project. Originally, I wanted to do the cardigan in Sandnes Garn Pure Gint. I swatched it with multiple different needles, and I just couldn't hit a small enough gauge. I also didn't really want to force the yarn into a tight gauge and then have zero drape left for the final piece. So then I figured I was gonna try a different yarn. And in my stash already was a bunch of Cascade 220 Extra Fine Superwash Merino, which was a remnant of the Miyu top that I made for my cousin. I had too much of it. I figured I would just gauge swatch this really quickly and then see if it'll work. And I went down a couple needle sizes until I finally hit gauge, and here's what the gauge looks like. The great thing about this pattern is that the cables are very short, meaning it's a 2x1 cable where you cross over at the most 2 stitches, so I didn't even have to use a cable needle. I rarely ever use a cable needle these days if it's under 3 stitches. I just did that trick where you can pinch the stitches on your needle and then you can slip them off and, switch their positions. By the way, in order to hit gauge, I had to go down to a US 4, which is a 3.5mm needle. That's the smallest needle I've ever used for DK. I am really sick and tired of this yarn and this color. I have kept trying to de-stash it and use it for a bunch of various projects, and then always had extra. And then for this project, I ended up having to buy actually a couple more skeins because I didn't have enough. I love the cable pattern. I love this designer. She's super sweet and a pleasure to work with, so here I am again. Anyways, the swatch with the Pure Gint didn't work, so I switched to this yarn instead. Of course, I didn't film a lot of it as usual. By the time I did start filming, I had pretty much already done 75% of the body. So once I got to the part of the body where I had to switch for the ribbing, I tried it on and it looked really, really short. And mind you, I'm 4'11", so I'm already really short, so if I'm saying it's short, that, it means something, I guess. I had my mom take this video, so it's a little bit awkward. I think I used 4 skeins of yarn before I ran out, and I managed to get through an entire sleeve out of the yarn that I already had and had bought. That was when my cousin told me that her Miyu top was too small, so I ended up taking that top back and then I unraveled it and then I reused it for this project. So I ended up finishing the rest of that sleeve with the unraveled yarn. Of course, unraveling meant that the yarn was now ramen noodles, and so I attempted to like steam some of the wrinkles out of the yarn before I reknit it, because I just knew it was going to be such a nightmare to try to reknit yarn that had already been used. It did work a little bit, but once you get towards like the middle of the cake, you have to sort of re-steam it again. Also, during this time, we had a huge snowstorm here out in the Northeast, so I stayed home powering through this project. Everything was going swimmingly until I got to the neckline. This pattern has two collar options. There's one which is like a folded collar, sort of like what I did with this wave sweater, where like you do a ribbing and then you fold it over and you sew it. It also has instructions for a folded collar, which is my personal favorite, and the collar in the promotional photos. I realized that there was like a weird hump, like extra material in the back neckline. The hump on the back was a little bit strange, and I got really worried throughout like knitting the collar. And then I couldn't really decide what the best number of stitches was to like pick up. The pattern does have like a suggested number of stitches, but it's a little bit flexible as long as you use like an odd number of stitches. I also thought maybe I would like try to chat GPT this or like Google ways to like sort of mitigate this. Surprisingly, the Google recommendations and like the Google advice is quite good. I feel like it's somewhat accurate. Regardless, this is a test knit, so this is beyond my control. I picked up as close as I could to the original stitch count, and then basically prayed that like blocking would get rid of it. This sweater is so warm right now. I'm like sweating. So here's what the cardigan looks like after blocking. This yarn works really great if you hand wash everything and wet block it, but if you attempt to put it through the machine, it will fuzz up like absolutely crazy, and I do not recommend that at all. Even right now, I feel like there's a halo and I'm just afraid that it's gonna be prone to pilling, but I am glad to report that the sleeves blocked out super well. So all the ramen noodles from like Unraveling the other project blocked itself out really well, and it's pretty much gone now. I don't see any remnants of like uneven twisted stitches. And yes, if you were paying attention, I don't have any buttons on it. I have a bunch of stitch markers here because this is where I was supposed to put buttons. I just haven't gotten a chance to get any. But actually my mom said that all the different colors were quite fun. She thought that they were buttons. So actually I think they're quite cool if I did like colorful buttons on this. So I might end up taking that idea and going to do that. If you guys have any like button manufacturer suggestions, like put it in my comments and I will take a look and check it out. I did get some extra length during blocking, because before it was sort of like hitting up here a little bit, but it hits a little bit better now. For reference, I am 4'11", so it is hitting probably just beyond my natural waist, like around right before my hip. So if you are taller than me, I would recommend like knitting a couple more repeats to get a longer length. But I was test knitting this, so I went exactly to pattern. The cables were super fun in the beginning, and then once I had to do it so many times, I got really annoyed, but regardless, we're here. And now I have a really great sweater to wear. And it worked out for me because I'm short. I don't know how it will be for other people. So I made the size medium. I wanted it to be more loose and more comfortable and with a bigger positive ease. Because I'm so used to always knitting the smallest size and then having it not be as roomy and comfortable as I want. But B had so many test knitters in this group that honestly, the pattern is pretty reliable across all sizes. Like there were multiple people knitting the same size. So for the size medium, I used 589 grams of yarn. I can successfully say that 589 grams of yarn was destashed in the month of January. That was when I officially stopped knitting and woven all the ends, but I blocked it somewhat towards the beginning of February. Either way, finished it on time. I love the detail that she did where the shoulder seam matches with a wave on the sleeves, so it sort of seamlessly goes into each other. The design is amazing. The designer is amazing. I highly recommend this pattern, and it should be out at the end of this month. I don't know when this video is coming out, but I will link it in my description if the pattern is up before I get this video out. I will say I'm very sick and tired of this color and this yarn. I have used it for so many projects. I made a neck warmer, a hat, this cardigan, a top that was unraveled. So I think I'm like done with Cascade 220 for now. I still really love this lavender color, but I do have a project in mind for this yarn, even though I didn't end up using it for this. I'm super excited to show you what I'm going to be doing with this. This project is probably going to be lingering in like the to make pile for quite some time, because I actually got into another test knit and I only have 4 weeks to finish that. So I will be a monogamous knitter for quite some time. Hello, Editing Tina here. I have decided recently that I really want to start adding in like the price and the cost of all the projects that I make, just so that I could like start getting an awareness of how much I'm spending and how much these projects are actually costing. I just thought maybe it would be another interesting data point to add, like to really sum up my projects. So as you know, I used 589 grams of this yarn, and I bought all of that yarn at my local yarn shop. So for retail price, I paid about $14 per skein, and I'm sure like I could get it cheaper like on yarn.com or whatever, but I don't know, I guess like my local yarn shop had all the yarn that I needed, and I didn't want to wait for shipping, and then I also just wanted to support a local business. But regardless, so $14 times 5.89 is about $82 for this entire project. So it took me about $82 for the whole thing. And of course you could get like a sweater at like any retail shop for a lot less. But honestly, I think like about $60 to $80 is a pretty solid and fair average for like a handmade knitted object, and also for like the cost of materials. There are definitely like cheaper yarns to use, but I would say Cascade 220 is like somewhere in the middle between like wallet friendly and bankruptcy. But yeah, so this entire project took me $82 worth of yarn, and I'm pretty okay with that. I would say that's not too bad. I'm not like too unhappy about that. Also, I guess while I'm here, I also wanted to say like this project was actually scheduled to be released at the end of February, but a couple of like test knitters couldn't finish and they needed a longer deadline, is what I kind of gathered from the group chat that we were all in. And so B graciously like gave everyone an extension. I mean, at this point I had already finished my project in a few weeks in advance. She gave a pretty solid like length of time for this project, and also she was like very accommodating for like people who couldn't finish. So in general, like the test knitting experience for this designer is like very easy and very unstressful, I guess I would say. Definitely go and support this designer. Like she has like so many great designs, and I love her like design aesthetic. Like not a lot of designers are like willing to give an extension, or like are willing to like push their deadlines back. Some of the test knits that I've been in, like basically by the time you finish test knitting, the pattern is like out like the week later, or like a few days after the testing period ends. So, you know, she was so kind like to accommodate the test knitters. And yeah, I'll speak a little bit more about this in my test knitting video. I plan to kind of do like a test knitting 101 video about like all of my experiences, and like how you guys could get into one, or what it's like to be a test knitter. But you know, in short, things happen in life, and not everybody is able to dedicate their entire lives and their entire schedules like to like wrap around a test knit. B was super gracious to like give us all an extension, and I think it was really fair. So yeah, love her, love the sweater. Yeah, back to filming Tina. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. I hope you enjoyed the little footage I had of me actually making this. The pattern is awesome, the designer is super sweet and super awesome, so I would definitely recommend this pattern. Go out and get it wherever you are, and that's all I have for you in this video. Hope you enjoyed watching it, and I hope you got a lot done on your projects as well, and I will see you when I see you. Bye!